appreciate the last minute. Welcome, everyone, this afternoon. Good likelihood that people are going to pick up the newspaper tonight, tomorrow, and see the headline that a second suspect was arrested in the senseless murder of Scott Allen Brooks. They'll see the social media posts, the mugshots, and what they traditionally see. What they don't get an opportunity to see is just some of the tremendous work that was done over the last year by some of the people to my left right here in the homicide unit, the grinding, the canvassing, the recanvassing, the pouring through evidence, and the technology, and the multitude of interviews that these men and women have done, not only in the detective squad here, but officers, our crime analysts, the lab, through the kitchen sink at it, just like we do at every single homicide case that develops here in Charlotte. It's no big wonder that we're teetering in the area of a 70% clearance rate with our homicides, which may sound minimal to some, but when you juxtapose that to other major cities in the country, it dwarfs it, it eclipses it, and it's due in large part to that work. What you also don't get to see, or people at home don't get to see, is what I saw just several months back when you had Mr. Brooks' family on the third floor in a conference room of this building, shaken to the core, inconsolable, and I saw members of our homicide unit take Angela, Mr. Brooks' wife, aside, look her straight in the eye. They were resolute, they were deliberate, and they promised her and that Brooks family that they were going to get to the bottom of this. Somebody was going to be held accountable. 4 months later, one arrest, Terry Connor Jr. Here we are today, a second person charged, Stephen Staples. I'm going to get into his criminal history, and this guy's a doozy, and Lieutenant Crum's going to talk about that. I want to introduce Lieutenant Crum with our Violent Crime Division. He's going to go over the case, the updates, some of the work that went into this, and how we're encouraged to know that there are 2 people now being held to account for that senseless murder. Lieutenant Crum.
So as Rob kind of teed off, discussing the Brooks case, that occurred on December the 9th of 2019. Mr. Brooks was opening his restaurant like he did every morning and fell victim to this senseless robbery. It was a robbery. 2 men that he'd never seen before confronted him, and they robbed him, and he lost his life in that robbery. We've charged Terry Connor previously, and today we're pleased to be able to announce that we've charged Stephen Staples as well in that case. Stephen Staples' date of birth was July the 3rd of 1958. This case it's really troubling to all of us, I think. As some of you may know, this is the 5th murder that Stephen Staples has been charged in over about a 1.5 month period. He was involved in a tremendous amount of violent crime, and it just seems senseless. Every single one of us in the homicide unit have really just scratched our heads trying to understand what could lead to these senseless crimes, just such a horrible spat of violence in such a short period of time. So Staples is charged with murder, first-degree kidnapping, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and conspiracy to commit robbery with a dangerous weapon. That's in the Staples murder. To walk you through kind of the timeline of events, Scott Brooks was killed on December the 9th of 2019. On December the 23rd of 2019, he's been charged with murdering Anthony Leaks, who's 40 years old. That was in the 6200 block of Elliott Drive. So he was charged there with murder, firearm by felon. On January the 11th, he's charged in the death of Asa Shannon and Sijavon Joseph, both 35 years old. You guys may remember their car was found on the side of Atando Avenue. He's also charged the murder in Hickory that occurred on January 23rd of this year as well. That was a 23-year-old victim in that case. Again, these crimes are just horribly shocking, but I can tell you that our detectives, they have worked tirelessly on these cases. As Rob talked about, we make a commitment to our victims' families that we're going to do everything we can to solve our cases, no matter how long it takes, no matter what we need to do. We're going to leverage all of our resources and the resources of our partners to try to find some justice for them. This case wouldn't have been possible without assistance from our partners at the ATF. The Violent Crimes Task Force has been instrumental in helping us to continue to pursue this case, both through detectives on the ground grinding with us, and other initiatives. We've also worked with Cabarrus County, who also has pending charges against some of these defendants. Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office has been fantastic as well. I'll take any questions you guys might have.
It's my understanding that Connor was also charged in the murder on Tondo Avenue as well.
Yes, so on Tondo Avenue, just to be clear, because there's two Connors that are involved in some of these cases, Terry Connor Jr. and Everett Connor are both charged in the double on Tondo, along with Stephen Staples.
Sure. But is it safe to say that, for lack of a better term, that Connor and Staples were partners in crime to a degree, being involved in both homicides?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. They've all been charged with robberies that resulted in murders. So clearly they were partners in crime. They were robbing people and taking people's lives as a part of those robberies.
And then what led to the charges to Staples? Because he's in custody already, correct?
So, as you can tell, when you have this many cases, this many victims, there's a lot of moving pieces. So it's just been a matter of dissecting the information that we have, going over with detectives, discussing with the district attorney's office, making sure we have everything in place that we need. Obviously, when somebody's in custody, we don't have a rush to make charges at that point. We want to make sure that we have a case we can prove. So today, we got to a point we believe we can prove this case, and that's why we filed charges today.
Is that mostly based on forensics, or just getting more details?
Yeah, this case is, again, there's 5 cases that kind of come into play in the death of Mr. Brooks. So there's a lot of different pieces. We've leveraged some new technology with DNA, electronic technology, people in the community stepping up and helping us out. Lots of little pieces here and there that come together to paint the big picture of what happened.
You said 5 murder charges, and
How does, with all of these cases, you said there's 5, how does someone like Connor and Staples kind of, slip through and keep doing these type of crimes?
I wouldn't call it slipping through. As I said, it's a month and a half. It's a really short period of time. As a lot of you guys can see, we have a case that takes some time for us to do the work that we need to do. A lot of times, getting phone records or getting different types of records, getting the evidence we need to prove a case. We may know where a case is headed, but being able to prove a case, it takes a little bit of time for those pieces to fall into play. Ideally, we have somebody come forward and point the finger and say, I saw this person do it. This isn't one of those cases. This has been a case of very small pieces. So I'm proud to say that by January 29th, we'd made an arrest. The first arrest, that was Everett Connor in the double. And then we just continued pursuing it relentlessly from there. So I wouldn't say slip through the cracks. I think this is just a case of there was a lot of violence in a very short period of time.
Do you think there's any other people involved in these cases? I know that before you all have said that this might have been a crime ring with different incidents going on. Do you believe that there's more victims and more suspects?
It's still a very active investigation. I'll tell you, we're still pursuing leads in this case, and we're making sure that everyone that we can prove participated in these cases, we're going to hold accountable. With regard to Mr. Brooks' case, we don't believe there are any outstanding suspects, but again, in 4 cases with 5 murders, there's a lot of moving parts, so we're still investigating.
do detectives still believe this is just, in the Scott Brooks case, it was just a robbery? Is that still kind of the motive, I guess, you guys are looking?
Yeah, we have, based on the video and all the evidence reviewed, there's nothing to indicate this is anything but an armed robbery.
Mr. Briley, that you've been waiting for to be able to tell the Brooks family this news. What was it like being able to give them, it sounds like, what made some closure in this case?
So my lead detective, Detective Martin, talked to them this morning. I know she was very pleased to be able to tell them that. When I was a detective, I think that that was probably the best part of an investigation, if there is one. When you investigate this, you have to meet these families and tell them some of the worst news possible. It's after you put a lot of time and effort, in this case over a year into this case, to catch both people. It's a good feeling to be able to do that little bit of a service to that family.
And how long has Staples been in custody? When was he first arrested for one of these cases?
He was originally arrested February 6th of 2020, and that was on the double murder from, that murder occurred on the 11th of January.
Any indication of what was going, so this month and a half period, this violent crime, like he's been charged in 5 of these cases, any indication of what was going on, or just he just kept trying to rob people, whatever you guys are thinking?
Yeah, it appears that they were participating in armed robberies throughout the area. I wouldn't just say in Charlotte, because obviously they're charged in Cabarrus County, Hickory as well. They were participating in armed robberies, and some of them turned unfortunately more violent.
Those charges in Barrett County, those are robbery charges?
They're robbery, burglary, and there's a assault with a deadly weapon charge also.
Go ahead. I believe in the arrest warrant for Connor, it was stated that he stole only $100 from Mr. Brooks. I know the court system's really backed up right now with coronavirus. It's very hard to get our hands on those details as reporters. Do you know by chance offhand that if Staples got away with anything or any details that you might be able to provide us from that warrant?
At this point, we don't believe that anything beyond that $100 was taken. The robbery, I don't think, went as planned. So I don't want to get too far into the details. Let the district attorney's office present that. But we believe that same $100 is what we would say they both stole.
Interviewing these suspects, I mean, do they have any remorse?
I don't know. They don't have to give statements to us. I'll tell you, I don't know how anybody could act without remorse, but their continued course of conduct lets me know that these are really violent individuals that probably weren't real concerned about the outcome of their behavior was or what their actions were. I mean, that month and a half period of time to continue to participate in this kind of violence, I would say that they're just very violent, dangerous individuals.
We spoke with David Brooks earlier, and he called about just the violent crime in Charlotte in 2019, see it again in 2020, and it's increasing compared to when his brother was killed. Any mention of, any concern for that year just so far, 2020 this year, and that crime kind of increasing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any member of the community, I mean, we're part of this community too, and we see, more and more senseless violent crime. It's incredibly troubling to us to see that continued violence. I wish I had an explanation for why, but it certainly concerns us deeply.
You said that these crimes kind of happen in a month and a half time frame, and which is also around the holiday season, and now we're in a pandemic. People are hungry to get money. People are hungry to grab anything they can. Do you have any advice to just any businesses out there, or anyone that's opening up shops early, or just anything during this time?
So just be aware of your surroundings. I think be aware of your surroundings. Show up with somebody else, and if you have a concern, give us a call, and officers are more than happy to respond out there and to address whatever your concerns are, what you're nervous about.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Anybody need to follow up with you, so offline. Appreciate it.
Thank you.